And I think we start with roll call. Okay.
Your secretary today? Who's secretary?
No,
Oh, Lisa is gonna be taking notes, she's online.
You're taking minutes? Because somebody's gotta be taking minutes.
We are, George, got it.
Well, I guess not, heck with it.
so I know that Charlie Ortman, chair, is gone for this meeting. I'm here, Philomena Quebec. Pat Kinney,
Here,
George Mika,
here,
Kathy Schutte.
Here.
Excellent. So I will entertain a motion for an approval of the agenda.
I'll make that a motion.
Before you do that, we would like to add a down to number 11. We'd like to add an Ashland County Fair update.
Okay,
Would that be okay to do that?
So I'll second the motion to approve, and then we could amend it with what you're asking.
Yes.
You could have had that under other business anyway. That's okay, but that is other business. So.
okay, so we'll add Ashland County Fair update.
Yes,
See, if
under
you-
number
if-
11.
If you've got the agenda, if it's an action item, it has to be on your agenda, but anything else comes under next, other business, so.
Any further discussion?
So with that, I will continue my motion to approve.
As amended,
As amended.
I'll second as amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any dissents? All right, now we have, the next item on the agenda is public comments. So if we don't have anybody in the room here, is there anyone online?
Nope, just Lisa is online.
Okay. So then the next item is approval of the minutes from February 25th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
A second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. So the next item on the agenda is the Area Extension Director Report.
So Lisa can hear me. So you guys, when you're presenting, come over here so Lisa can hear you. All right, so just a couple things that I mentioned on here is COVID policies. We are, following along right along with the counties now, and we are set to be back to end the telecommuting policy on July 1. So, however, in Ashland Extension, pretty much everybody's back. So Doug's been working full time out of the office for a couple months already. And Heidi's there for her halftime. Stephanie's in all the time too. So Lisa is still telecommuting quite a bit because she's living out in Solon Springs, and then she comes in the office a couple days a week. And then but when our telecommuting policy ends, and that ends too. So then, so we're back in the office, basically running as normal, which means that, you come in and we have our support staff there because it's summer, so we're all doing outreach education anyway. So it's back to its normal busyness, which feels really good, and having people do things and be out and about. So that's really it for COVID in terms of the office situation. When it comes to programming, it's really, can you even hear me back here? We need to turn. Can you hear me okay? No, I didn't think so. So.
That's my fault, I didn't bring my earrings.
Oh, okay. So,
You want to come up here too? You want to sit up here?
Come on, join us.
I don't know, what do you see, go to the door.
so with programming, we are also getting back to normal. We're doing youth programming this summer. There are restrictions still for overnight camps and things that we're doing them, but there's additional protocol. Because as you know, the kids aren't being vaccinated yet, and so we need to keep those protection protocols in place for them. So Doug and Ian are planning an Ashland Bayfield overnight camp as usual. And then Doug's got adventure programming planned, so that we're taking registrations for. So youth programming even looks pretty much back to normal with some additional types of changes. But we're getting there, so that's good. And then we don't have restrictions anymore on how many people in a room and things like that. We prefer to keep social distancing for now and things like that, however. So we in Ashland County never have like 100 people at an indoor function anyway, so those types of things aren't as big of a deal up here. So that's that for COVID policies. Any questions on COVID policy?
So just for the overnight camps are, I would imagine there's additional protocols in place because the kids all don't have access to vaccines.
Right. So access and, I mean, so the teenagers right now can be vaccinated, but not the younger kids
Right.
whose camp is actually for.
Right.
So, so it's things like, mask wearing inside, if they're like inside and they can't social distance, but no masks outside for outside activities, which hopefully your summer camp is mostly outside, right? Things that might happen indoors are eating, right? So we need to be able to make sure that we're not shoving kids together to eat. For sleeping arrangements, we're trying to go foot to head on those bunks, right? So just different things like that to keep kids separated. And they're used to it, so this, I don't think is gonna impact those kids that much.
Right.
And the other thing is our staffing updates. I have a bigger one, which is number 6 that we'll talk about, but for right now, last time we met, we had a new office manager and she left. So she got a different position up at the Big Top, which is kind of her dream job. So it was nothing that we did. She really liked working at Extension, but she only made it, 3 months, 4 months? And then this happened. So it's perfect for her degree and everything. And she had worked summers there, so they actually recruited her. So that's fine. But we have now hired Blake Frost for the position, and Blake was an intern with Doug last year. So she's a recent Northland graduate, and she wants to stay in the area here. She's not originally from here, but she wants to stay in the area. So she was, Doug was real impressed with her when she interned, and I did her reference checks and things. She actually works at North Lakes Clinic right now. And she starts with us on Tuesday. So in the meantime, we still have Brenda Bruder there, who's working 8 hours a week. So she keeps us running in the meantime here, so. But we're happy to have somebody else come on. Any questions with that? Okay. Now, the important, not that the other ones aren't important, I just know to grab my paper here, so I know what I'm talking about.
Are you going to 6 then?
Yes, if I may,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
that sounds great. Move on to agenda item number 6.
So I sent you all a bit of an explanation, and then Pat sent me some questions this morning, which I tried to answer via email. So the situation is that extension, that the Agriculture Institute is a little bit different than the other institutes in that they have a lot of not only state specialists, but they also have integrated specialists, which means that they're part extension, part UW-Madison research. So it's different. It's expensive. It's a pricey program. And agriculture across the state is changing. We're doing more, getting more into dairy and beef as kind of a focus, and then emerging crop production, so new crops. So these types of changes have been taking place for a while, and we're to the point now where changing the regular county ag generalist type of position. So a lot of counties now are starting to see shared positions, which focus, they're not generalists, like, so they'll like focus on beef and cover, 2, 3, maybe 4 counties. And then there'll be somebody else who focuses on dairy, right? So, and here in the north, we don't have a lot of that type of ag anymore. So as you know, Jason Fishbach, who hopefully will be joining us at some point, he has a meeting until 1, I think he said. He's going to be moving into a regular full-time position as the emerging crop specialist, and he's been doing this for years, just not on a permanent basis. So we've been doing this backfill situation all the time. So Sarah is our current backfill. She's actually doing vegetable trials today, working on that project. And that whole situation, Sarah was only supposed to be last year, 2020. Now we extended her until June 30th. And now we're extending her through the summer. But Jason is going to be starting a new permanent position as the emerging crops specialist. It's a statewide position, but he's still located here. And we'll be focusing on hazelnuts, which is what he's been focusing on. He's got millions of dollars of grants with other states. It's a multi-state initiative. So he'll still be located here. The funding that goes from the state side into Jason's position moves along with him, which means that there will not be co-funding from the state for a local ag position for Ashland Bayfield counties the way that there is currently. Is everybody following that so far? Because it's confusing.
Yeah, so now I'm curious, the 2 options, one was funding towards Jason, and you had said that he's 100% funded by the state. So I don't understand that as an option, nor do I understand if we don't have a local ag agent, why that wasn't listed as an option. So if you could clarify what I'm missing or not understanding.
Right, okay, so yes, so let me back up a little bit. So Jason's position, which is Jason and Sarah, because she's a backfill for him. So technically there's just 1 ag position. It's being filled by 2 people right now, okay? That position is co-funded by the state and from Ashland Bayfield. And Bayfield pays 75% of that co-funding and Ashland pays 25%. Okay.
So in that part there, you say that co-funding, does that mean that as Jason moves into this emerging crop specialist position, that we still need to fund that locally, meaning these 2 counties? Or is the state picking up Jason's salary?
Yep, so the state will pay for it. Bayfield County is choosing to still co-fund the position, to still put money into it. That is what they are choosing to do right now. That's a choice that you have. You certainly don't need to do that because he has a statewide it'll be a statewide position.
So I don't understand why, if he's funded by the state, I don't understand why there's any local money from the counties. I'm not clear on that.
Because they're choosing to do that. So,
but doesn't
so we
that-
asked.
It sounds like more than 100% funding to me then.
But instead of county funding, I mean, instead of state funding, the county's gonna be paying for
So the county's
75%.
County's doing their regular co-funding. Yes, they're choosing to do that. We asked them to do that.
It's
Because
60-40. State pays 60, we pay 40,
approximately.
When you
it's
say we
approximate.
mean the two counties.
but yeah. Well, we pay 25%, Bayfield County pays 75% of that 40%, or, you know, and Jason will go strictly to 100% state. He will not be on our, you know,
That's what I'm trying to understand. If he's gonna be 100% state in this emerging crop specialist role, is the state paying for him? Or are we still funding part of it locally? And if the state.
not Jason's.
So are
We
you talking,
were.
are you talking about the other person that's been backfilling now?
Yeah, so that backfill position goes away. So there will not be a local ag educator that is somebody that, I mean, Jason will still be here, like he's local, but he's focusing on his hazelnut project and other emerging crops. He's not focusing on like, hey, my tulips are dying, can you help me with that? Those kinds of questions and things, or fruit production up in Bayfield County, you know, there's a lot of fruit questions up there. So those types of things that the traditional county agent, what people use to term a county agent, that will not be happening.
So that's neither Jason nor someone backfilling?
Correct, correct.
So then I'm not understanding why either county, I mean, I can understand Bayfield County. I've got some of these hazelnuts from, you know, same ones Jason from
Yep.
05 and 06, and I followed that stuff and read his research online and stuff, but so I can understand Bayfield County having that interest in part because their soils are so far seem better suited to that than Ashland County's clay. So what I don't understand is how we're not gonna have some kind of local ag agent here to service in some of the roles, why we would help fund Jason's position if he's pulled away from us, so to speak, for everything else.
Yep.
And we don't have someone who fills the role of what most people are more used to and I think a lot of people value.
Yep, so I understand what you're saying. And so at this point, because our extension and the Ag Institute are focusing our funding in different agricultural areas and going to these more regional or statewide types of positions, there will not be those types of general ag. So the co-funding from the state side will not be there for a local county agent type of position.
So for everything else, except, you know, I literally have hazelnuts, for everything else, who are people gonna call? Is there anybody to call? Is there another specialist somewhere else in another county that we can pull in or?
Correct, so, so simultaneously, as they're hiring out these different positions, or changing them to be more regional, they're also building up other types of things like that, that will be positions that are regional or statewide, that will help people with those types of things. So for instance, right now, they're gonna be hiring, I think they might have actually hired already, a hort specialist who will work specifically with master gardeners across the state, okay? So so there won't be like that, because there's all these little master gardener groups, right? All these counties, right? So instead of one county agent that works with dairy and beef and master gardeners and this, you know, there'll be like one person that works with several master gardeners groups in a county type of thing. So there'll be several state, I think 3 state positions that are like that work like on a regional basis.
Am I the
So
only one that's confused?
No, I understand clearly what they're doing.
Hmm?
I understand clearly what they're doing.
You do?
They're taking Jason to the state and the county is paying for it, correct?
no, you don't have to pay anything towards it. So
Well, the state's not gonna pay for his new position. You said the counties, the 2 counties, the money will go with him.
Bayfield County, the money is going with him because Bayfield County chose to do that.
Okay,
Ashland County can choose to do the same thing, or Ashland County can put that about 10 grand elsewhere in extension into a different educator. Or Ashland County could say, you know, we really need somebody to work on Hort in the summer. You know, so we're gonna use that money to hire a summer assistant in Hort.
What does Bayfield County get from their investment in Jason that Ashland County would not get if they decided not to?
I think that, and that's a really legitimate question. I think Pat just kind of touched on that, because you think Bayfield County is more likely to maybe benefit from that hazelnut
Yeah.
work than Ashland is.
So I grew up on a farm east of Mason on Maple Ridge Road, and a year and a half ago in January, Jason did a session out at the visitor center, and I went to that. And I followed this since they got started here the better part of 20 years ago with these hybrid hazelnuts. And I talked to Jason after that meeting, and he said Maple Ridge Road, literally like the land I have, you know, in particular the kind of land I have, he said that's a sweet spot for the hazelnuts. It's nice, loamy to sandy loam soil. And so, you know, and that's true, as far as my experience with the hazelnuts. And Bayfield County, if you look at their soils, they have far more loamy or sandy loam soil in places, you know, we go to Iowa and places like that and other places. I think their soils are much more likely to be where hazelnut production would occur than in the clay soils in Ashland County in terms of really propagating this. So I think my sense from the reading the research and conversations with Jason and, you know, stuff over the years, and I think Bayfield County is much better positioned because of the soils to benefit from this. So I can see that investment. In fact, the land I have, it's something I keep an eye on because, you know, long story short, if I'm around in 10 or 15 years and the hazelnuts pan out like they're hoping, I'd really like to see the land I have in hazelnuts. But I don't have what I call flat benign clay. I've got the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I think that's Bayfield's reason.
Yeah, so that makes sense. Would the specialist position have been created if Bayfield County had offered
Yes.
to do that? And then would it just be fully state funded at that point?
Yes,
Yeah,
So
it's,
why
So
did
that-
they choose to have it go that direction? Because they still benefit from this research.
yes, they're gonna benefit from his research. You know, it's kind of, Jason calls it the bullseye effect for any state specialist, right? It's like the state's a big place, right? So you're gonna focus on the place where you live. So, I mean, and that's still gonna happen in Ashland County's got Kernza trials down in Marengo right now, you know, so it's still gonna happen here because he's still located here.
so it keeps, you know, and one thing is the trials up in this end of the state, this region.
Yeah.
And you know, down in Spooner and some others, you know, areas, so it keeps that here. And then the infrastructure like at Northland, you know, with the facilities there for processing and stuff, and it just
Yeah.
keeps that here, and it's convenient to do sessions at the visitor center.
Right.
And that place was packed a year and a half ago on hazelnuts, so, you know, and he's always had a strong following on that, so those of us, you know, like George, you know, had farms here and stuff, we're looking for that alternative crop, and hazelnuts, you know, for lots of reasons, if they pan out, would be good, a good commodity up here, and for the soils too.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't expect you to, so basically what we're doing is that frees up in our current contract with extension. It's about, what did I say?
10,000.
$10,500 was that 25% of that co-fund, so Bayfield put in 36.5 that they are gonna continue putting in. You guys don't need to do that. I also don't expect you to make any decisions today. I just wanted you to know that this is happening, that the contract with extension will be changing from our end.
Effective what date?
Well, Sarah is here until August 30th. Now, as in that backfill position.
Okay.
So that is technically when I'll be changing, but you know, this is all gonna be gradual, right? It's not like Jason goes boom and he's not gonna answer anything else, because that's not him, that's not his type of way of doing things. So So he'll still be here, he'll still be helping people for sure. But the contract with extension long-term changes. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. We can talk about this sometime when you have your hearing aids in too.
You think it'd do me any good?
I don't know.
Hearing aids don't make you understand.
Oh, okay.
One thing that I think would help this committee is we had a meeting in February. We haven't had one and now we're in June.
Yep.
And now we're talking about ending this or making this new thing come at the end of August. I think there's too long in between meetings to be putting this on the table today.
Right, and that's why I say, and I totally agree with you. And we went to Bayfield County first with this because, you know, they pay the majority of it, and
Right.
plus he's housed there, there's offices, all of his
Right.
stuff is stored there, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we worked through, I mean, there was a lot of questions and stuff like that, and over time, you know, I came to be able to better explain this too. So that's why I'm bringing it to you today. Like I said, I don't expect any sort of, you know, decisions or anything like that at this point in time about, but I do want to put forward the fact that this is happening. The contract changes. So the money that you have budgeted this year for that ag position is 10,583. So half of it has been paid out for January through June already. So, and then that makes sense. And like, I'm not going to, I'm pretty sure we are not charging Ashland County for Sarah's additional time, was additional 2 months. Like, I want this that to be cut in June for you guys. So really it frees up in the current budget about $5,000, right? So that was the other question.
So
that
when you
were
come
asked.
back on this topic, you know, I'd like to know more, you know,
Yeah.
on the horticultural specialist or support, you know, going forward.
Yeah.
How does that get filled, and if it makes sense to consider some funding towards that to have more of a presence here? You know, because you know, like the 4-H kids and stuff like that, you know, it's always good to have someone available.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so there's gonna be that gap there, and then for the position you're losing. Yeah, I'm not clear on why that's being lost, but what's the impact? And, you know, on maybe on other staff, that things get shoved off and, you know, people pick up pieces, or if there's something we're losing that we should take a look at somehow. Filling that gap. So when we get to the next meeting, those would be things I'd be interested in.
Yeah, and I will also tell you that Bayfield County Committee is concerned about the exact same thing, about losing those kinds of general services. And they actually got to the point where they said, well, maybe, you know, maybe in the future, we're gonna need to put a little bit more money into this. So there is a possibility of a sharing type of situation where Bayfield County would add a little, you know, if you both had, you know, 10 grand to put into, you know, a spring, summer, you know, fall type of position. That's a possibility.
There's an emphasis on local foods.
Mhm.
It's really kind of hard to understand how they would lose or not have much of support for something like that.
Yep, and so there's a local foods team at Extension. So again, there's things, there's specialists that we can pull in for things. Lissa's been doing some stuff with local food, so is Kelly up in Bayfield. So I mean, there is like, there's other ways to pull other folks from Extension in and to use our network rather than just, you know, the county-based employees to actually use our network.
Because you're gonna have a lot of people in the public wondering where they go for support on those things. So-
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
outlining that in context is gonna be helpful.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Mark AA did get the Ag Institute director to promise to hire a summer person for the next 2 years beyond this year, so like Sarah's covering this year, and then a summer person for the next couple of years, will they build up those types of general support types of things? Because like right now, I talked about the Hort one that they're starting on, so they're just starting to build that stuff up. It's not all there, like ready to go, so, yes.
Next question. The one thing that I'm concerned about, because this area is so much into the fruit, the apples, the fruit,
Okay.
strawberries, raspberries, blueberries. So to have Jason's position not here. You know, we have this fly that lays the eggs in all these fruit crops and it's demolishing them. That nobody has a cure for that. Nobody has a solution how to fix that egg or that comes from this fly. And boy, I tell you, you need somebody here up in the north to understand what that's all about, because Bayfield is losing berries. We lost three,
Well, that's
four,
why Jason was hired.
right, and that's,
Ashland County had wanted to buy out of an ag agent because you've got your Synergy and you've got your seed companies, they're all doing that, the work that they used to do. So, well, basically, we didn't need an ag agent because there's more than enough, the Lulich, you know, you name it, there's people out there with information, you know. And Bayfield County came to us and asked us if we would take on a quarter position because of the fruits, because of Bayfield, because of the things. Well, Jason being as energetic as he did, he started filing off into this hazelnut and it became a huge thing, you know. And they've been trying to pull Jason from us for the last 5-6 years. And Jason on his own wanted to kind of stay intact with the counties because we do have nutrient management and he was the one who wrote all those programs. And so he had spent so much time and I know he's not going to throw himself away, but at the same token, we're going to have to find somebody that's hopefully got some of that same energies that he had in the fruits and vegetables.
and Mary, just to continue where I left off, we lost 60% of our raspberry patch because the raspberries are full of worms by the middle of the season, so you can't sell.
Blueberries.
And blueberries and strawberries, anything that's got pockets where they lay eggs. Everything is affected by this, I don't know the. Yeah.
Well, the blueberries have a harder shell, so those mites can't cut them. Where your raspberries, your blackberries, after the second day, they got that thin little, you can't see them, but they got a thin tail and they cut and that's where they fill their larvae, you know. I like it because it puffed up and they turned white, man.
So thank you for that concern, Kathy, and I will pass that on. And thank you, George, you're absolutely correct. This is why the Ag Institute has to change, is because of all these outside companies. You're exactly right. You have it, you know exactly why they're doing this.
Now, are we gonna keep the person on pretty much that we have?
So Sarah's position ends on August 30th. And then there will not be any funding from the state for a local ag educator, for a county ag person. There won't be funding
For both counties?
for
Or
both
just
counties, correct?
Sure.
So that's the big change. That is like that's the problem that we need to, like Kathy's concerns, those types of concerns, those are the types of things that we need to document. And then see if we can move forward on figuring out a solution to help people with those types of things.
So I gotta ask the administrator, thinking that ARPA money, we couldn't do a lot last year with COVID. Could we arguably say that we could use part of that money? This is an economic development issue where you lose, you know, crops where people are trying to, you know, make some money selling some of this stuff, even if it's part-time. But could we potentially use some of that ARPA money to support some of this?
So as I said in the county board meeting last week, we're gonna be doing the calculation for lost revenue. Right now, that would not be allowable under the current treasury guidelines for county money. But if you take the money and if you classify it as lost revenue, then you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. You can put it towards roads, you can put it towards other things. I guess I'm loath to put any money into new positions because 2025 the money goes away and then you're stuck with an issue. So it's a temporary thing. But what I'm looking at is either in the July 20th or in the August meeting, having once I get the lost revenue calculations done, this is a very complicated issue, multi-year analysis. I'm actually paying the consultants to do this. Once that happens, then I'll have the county board come in and do some larger strategic planning. What do we want to do in these larger purchases? Right now, I'm just solidifying and finalizing the small purchases, $5,000 and less, air cleaner and enhanced soap dispenser and stuff like that. But in the larger scale, the county should really weigh in. What do we want to do with this money? Do we want to support what we currently have? Do we want to support Office on Aging? Do we want to support Extension Office as it is? Do we want to support FART? Do we want to do those things? Or do we want to use it for one-off type capital investments? Do we want to do, a treatment hub? Do we want to put it into the road fund to do roads? Those are all things that the county board is going to have to decide.
So and it's a good point that this is temporary money, but with the changes going on, and we're gonna know more at the next meeting as far as where this shakes out. But if the board decides to, keep some funding related to extension for agriculture related purposes, this could help us for a few years, but it would have to be with the understanding that the county's gonna have to pick it up after 2024.
Yeah, so it's sort of on that list, because Clark has a list of that we could contribute to, and I didn't put ag on there, but I did put extension in general, like mental health types of education and things like that I did put on that list. So I mean, extension at least is already there, something to kind of talk about.
Yeah, we have an internal staff list that has, I don't know, 60 or 70 items on it that my staff have put in to say these are possibilities. We've not gone through and vetted it to find out if they're allowable or not. but These are just
Just
things
way in
that
the beginning.
we'll be using for brainstorming with the county board to make sure you at least think outside of the box of what else could this money be used for? And what do you want to, what do you want to use it for?
So, the extension position related to ag is, to me, an economic development issue at its core. It's about keeping people on the land in local communities, the small rural areas, and, that economic benefit from having them there. And so I know in Bayfield County, that's, it makes a difference as far as keeping, people there. And so it really is an investment. So, especially if we're going to keep younger people here.
Well, there's an opportunity here too, because Dave Schultz is retiring 1st of August. And so that program is a full-time or 35% full-time, and we're hoping to cut that back to half because you only basically spend a lot of time, and that's fully DNR funded. But we're looking at trying to get back to a nutrient management. We are, we're not under the microscope, but at the same token, there's 100 farmers or people that consider themselves farmers in our county, and there's only like 20 of them that have a nutrient management plan. And the state mandate is everybody that has 10 sheep or 80 chickens or whatever is supposed to have it. It's not a big deal. It's just they're supposed to know where their nutrients are going. The other thing that when Herb Cole was in our senator, he sent $500,000 down to start grazing program, and it really went off. And there were so many, and all of a sudden it just got cut off. And now there's people out there that want to graze, and there's no expertise out there. So we're looking at trying to get those positions as a one position, because the person that can do that will be able to do all of it. And then maybe we can put this in there, because most of our information and extension is on the internet. Everything that comes from, you can punch into any other county and find a project, they probably have even a list of all the hazelnut, the projects you can punch in there. And they probably got a lot of information right on the internet, even though a lot of us old timers don't want to use the internet. We like to talk to face, and we're gonna be history in due time, but at the same token, we've got a lot of information in us,
Who's we? Who's the guy you're talking about who's leaving?
Who do you want to talk about?
Dave Schultz.
Dave Schultz, who's that? I don't know.
With who?
Who is Dave Schultz?
Well, he's our animal abatement person.
Deer damage, bear damage.
Oh.
Yeah, he's 100% paid and he takes care of the 4 counties.
Okay.
But he'll be gone and we're trying to get that position, but not a full-time position again. We would like to piggyback with nutrient management, with grazing specialists, with anything else that needs to come that we're really not doing right now.
Okay. All right, great.
So that's in the works. We're hoping to get it done by the first of the year.
And you still have the no-till program.
Well, yeah, full-time and hopefully no money from the county. We're looking hopefully to get grants. We might have to have some support money, a couple $100,000. Today, that's just little stuff,
Thank you.
So is there any further discussion on this? Any further discussion?
No,
We're good? Okay.
What's one more little thing? I did suggest to Pat that maybe, to talk to one of the committee members or Mark AA up in Bayfield County, just to kind of get their point of view and why, and why they considered or are planning to continue putting some funding into it. So you might want to do that to help understand too. So we'll revisit this.
At the next meeting.
Yeah, and if you have any questions in the meantime, let me know, or if you want to talk to the Ag Institute director and get her perspective on it. Or Jason, please, that's great too.
Yeah, and as we head into the budget process,
Yeah.
I need to keep the administrator updated on, the impacts with the budget between all of that that's going on.
Okay. Yep.
So number 7 is education highlights.
Yeah, so there's a few of them here, and then Sarah's ag stuff wasn't included in that packet, so she sent it after I sent it out. So this is her ag report. Thank you. So I'll just go quick with the people who aren't here, so that's Doug and Sarah. So as I talked a little bit before about what Doug's got coming up, but they did manage, I think he talks in here about teen court too, or they managed even with COVID to do a really successful teen court season. Has been doing them virtually. So that's worked out really well. They did a virtual art contest. He started riflery and archery now, so those are face-to-face programs. They're doing senior scholarships, so 4-H is humming right along. And then Sarah, as I said, she's working on vegetable trials today and getting stuff planted, but she did do a high tunnel webinar, a 3-part piece on planting in high tunnels, which obviously is important for this area. She did another newsletter, so that's on the Bayfield and Ashland County websites that you can find. And then she did some more work with helping master gardeners, and that's one of the things that she's been working on recently as this ag transition is impending, is helping master gardeners understand that, there's support, that they'll still have support from extension, but in a different way. So helping them get up to speed and knowing where resources are and things. And then Lissa's online and these two are here. So come sit over here so Lissa can hear you. I should probably ask Lissa if she can hear us.
Does everyone have the same report?
Yeah, they do.
Well, my in-depth description of my programming is in the mid or the educator notes. And also in the annual report. So I'll just highlight a couple of things while we're here today. The first thing actually on the highlights in the annual report is the Strengthening Families and Systems program. And that's an 8-week class that we're delivering over Zoom for parents and caregivers of children that have experienced trauma. So that continues to be going really, really well in our area. It's a collaboration with Tracy Hennigar from Douglas and Bayfield counties. And we teach it over Zoom. So we're in the middle, week 3 of an eight-week session right now. We had 47 people register this time around, and we only accepted, what's that?
What page are you on?
Oh, page 6. And we accepted 20, I think 28 of them. So we have a waiting list actually for the class. We've opened it up so that we give preference to people in our counties and then open it up for statewide participants as their space. So that's a real advantage to teaching that class over Zoom. So that's going really well, and I think we'll continue to offer that class 3 times a year. It's a great class because it's a mix of parents and foster parents, birth parents, and professionals that come together to talk about how to support kids that have experienced trauma. So you get kind of these different perspectives and can view it from different ways. And so much that goes into supporting those kids is all about working as a team and making sure that there's good communication between all the members of that team. So to have all the different types of team members represented in the class works really, really well. We're considering offering that class in person in the fall. So exciting to be thinking about getting back to some in-person programming. So we'll see, there's a lot of reasons people want to join over Zoom. And so to think about going back to face-to-face, I don't know how that will work. I don't know if we'll get enough people to support a face-to-face class, but there's also something lost over Zoom, right? That those connections and that kind of support when you're in a room with people experiencing something that you've experienced is really different. So we'll try that out this fall and see if we get enough interest. So that is taking up quite a bit of my time, and Literacy Link also continues to take up a good portion of my time. I am partly funded by the Literacy Link project. So on top of the 50%, I have another 10%, and I might add another 10% to that this fall. That's funded through the Literacy Link. I'm actually meeting, I was able to meet with Kim, the new jail administrator, on Friday. They've had a lot of transition there over the last month, a lot going on. So I kind of stepped away for a little bit with my programming to let them kind of resettle. And I met with her on Friday and we had a really good meeting. They're very supportive of Literacy Link programming. And I'm actually have the opportunity to go to meet their staff this week. They're doing CPR trainings on Tuesdays and Thursdays this week, or Tuesday and Thursday this coming week. So I'm going to go in and do a little overview of the Literacy Link project for their staff, because depending on who I'm in contact with at the jail, I just still get some eye rolls from time to time about this programming, and most of them are supportive of it, but it does add to their workload a little bit. And so some of them, they see jail as being a place for punishment and punitive, and so they don't necessarily support this kind of work. So I'm hoping that I can go in there and kind of share the research behind the Literacy Link and let them know that this is not just a touchy-feely program, but it's also really good for community health and community economics, and that taking care of the children of these families is really important for us as a community. It's not just about the parent in jail and that kind of heartfelt program. There's a lot more behind it and a lot of research behind it. So I'm going to share some of that with them on Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm really glad that I have the opportunity to do that. I'm excited. We're also working, a lot of our Literacy Link efforts lately have been toward the caregivers of these kids. So not just the parent in jail, but also reaching the people that are taking care of them. And we know a lot of times that's, often a parent, but there's many instances where it's a grandmother or an aunt or a kind of extended family situation. So we're reaching out to those folks. We're starting a text message project for them to connect them with resources, and we have a 2-part workshop coming up in July specific to caregivers of these kids. So we'll be talking about managing strong emotions, helping kids to deal with the strong emotions that come along with having a parent in jail. And then we'll also be talking about the importance of reading for bonding and for early literacy. And then participating caregivers will get $25 of free books to order through First Book. We have some grant funding through them. So that's keeping me busy. I still can't get into the jail to do programming, but I'm looking forward to when I can do that. I've taught classes over Zoom. With that audience in particular, Zoom doesn't work quite as well as the in-person and having that personal connection. So I look forward to getting back there, hopefully before the end of the year, but we're making it work. We've had to be a little creative with some of our program through Literacy Link, but we're still reaching the families.
So your notes include that the jail populations are going back up, and to that I just say, ugh.
Yeah.
For lots of reasons, and then you also commented on how the staff perceive the purpose of being in jail.
Mhm.
So this is just a thought and you can ponder it, but I would like to see evidence that shows keeping people in jail versus out on a monitor leads to better outcomes for the individuals incarcerated,
Mhm.
for their family support network and society as a whole. I'm not convinced that it's the best outcome for them or
Right.
society,
Right.
let alone the budget. I'm
Right.
not convinced.
Yeah.
I'd like to see evidence. And so your programs, you focus a lot on what you're doing while they're in jail.
Mhm.
What if we turned that around and said, and you can really ponder this,
Yeah.
what if we turned that around and said, what programming could we do if people were out on a monitor and at home,
Right.
so that they were doing things that were constructive for themselves, their family?
Yeah.
And so that there's an incentive for them to want to be out on the monitor, but also for our local law enforcement
Yeah.
to say, okay, if we have them out, there's constructive things that would be better for
Right.
them. If they're willing to engage in this, and that could be some in-person stuff, if they
Yeah.
were allowed to come to some of that sort of stuff. And I'd like to see evidence that, I support what you're doing,
Mhm.
but I'd like to see evidence that keeping them incarcerated instead of out on a monitor.
Right. Yeah, the
And
Vera
when- when
Institute just
you
put
can't
out a
get
big
ac-
report
when
on
you can't
that.
get
so-
access to them.
Right.
I taught for a living.
Right.
I know the importance of access to those you're working with, and,
Yeah.
and most of what you do, it isn't the content you teach.
Right.
It's everything else that you teach and model.
Right.
And if you could think about ways of incentivizing,
Yeah.
working with them if they're on the monitor, maybe we can get the sheriff's department to.
Yeah.
To consider release.
Yeah, I've actually been working, Terry Wilbur is the electronic monitoring
Yeah,
supervisor at the jail, and I've been working pretty closely with him. And we were planning on offering some of these programs, the reading workshop and, getting them books in their hands to the people out on electronic monitor because the numbers were so high during COVID. But there's been just so much happening at the jail that we weren't able to roll it out, but he's very supportive of reaching out to those folks on electronic monitoring and even requiring them to take parenting classes and relationship classes. So I think there's a lot of room to reach people that are not in the jail facility, but are just as involved in other ways.
Yeah, as of last week, we had, on Wednesday last week, we had 43 in jail, maximum capacity is 68, but we also are boarding people because we don't have enough quarantine cells for
Right.
people that need to come in for 7 days, and we have 32 people on monitoring as of Wednesday last week. And so as we get out of this particular area, the one thing we do notice from a budgetary standpoint, we have been, due to either the mix of males versus females, and also the mix of who can hang out with other people and who can't hang out with other people within the jail itself, we end up spending, $100,000, $200,000 on boarding people. Also, which is a big expense. And, our Public Property and Law Enforcement Committee will be studying this issue, but a lot of this is outside of our control also. We are dealing with the district attorney, we're dealing with the court systems, and for a county to say we're not going to house people.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have other programs that deal with this. We have diversionary court, we have drug courts. So this is a multifaceted issue, and you're not alone
Mhm.
in concerning yourself with it.
Mhm.
And I think one of the issues, Pat, that we would want to look at is how many people do we look at within the county organization that should have input on this? We have a criminal justice coordinating council. That's probably and we're just getting that back up and running, but that has everybody from, probation to district attorneys, to the judge, to diversionary courts, sheriff, jail administrator, has all these things in it. And that's where I think this issue probably needs to be studied, to look at what are the best outcomes, not only from an individual standpoint, but also from a society and a court issue. So very complicated issue, but thank you for bringing it
Yeah,
up.
and you're right. In the January meeting of that, which I attended on Zoom, the judge stressed his desire for evidence
Mhm.
on all of these topics. I missed the March meeting. I was down in Verona and couldn't get online, but if that's something that you could speak to the judge, since he chairs that, about bringing some things forward, or how to go about that with a large group of people, on that committee, and there's some seats open for that committee if there's, people interested in joining. I think some pretty strong interest on a lot of members of the board to take some hard looks at some of that, and what you do in extension and some others, I think could be a piece of that puzzle with doing things. And, you think about the local foods and the high tunnels, instead of people being incarcerated, could we have some of them in places where there are high tunnels and they're working on local food production, doing something constructive, learning those skills, being with their kids, etc., instead of,
Right.
Some alternatives that,
Right.
if the evidence isn't there, then why are we doing it?
Yeah, and I'll find this Bureau Institute report, because it was all about this
Yeah.
last year, and how can that serve as a model for moving forward,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, if you could, I mean, if there's a way you could send that to the committee,
Yeah.
I'm also interested in any sort of promotional materials you have about that workshop that you were talking about.
Yeah, I have a flyer.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah, that would be great.
okay. I'll
That would
print
be
out.
great. It sounds like really, it's always, in Bad River, we're always hearing about, it's very complicated because the caregivers who are working with the kids have a lot of frustration related to,
Yeah.
the dynamics, and
Right.
especially when you have people who are dealing with addiction, it can be really challenging because they're just not behaving like you would want them to behave.
Right.
And so it's, it just sets up for a lot of frustration for the kids and the grandparents and all
For
that.
sure, yeah.
So certainly I think that's a real value.
Yeah, and I do end up contacting all of the caregivers, because I need to get their permission to participate in all these programs, so I hear a lot of that, because they'll talk about all of those things, and so it's a good connection to have, and I can connect them to other resources, and even just having somebody listen is kind of huge sometimes with everything that they're going through, and establishing boundaries and all of those family issues that come into play.
And expectations, all that, it's hard.
Do you have a question?
Well, I just wanted two things. I wanted to mention that Heidi also serves on the Criminal Justice Council. So, talking about collecting data and things like that, that a lot of that stuff is being collected or looked at.
I'm not on it officially, I attend.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, you attend. And then the other piece that I wanted to just mention, which is a different topic, you mentioned that the partnership with Bayfield Electric. Can you just tell people what that is, because I think that's kind of a unique service that's needed.
Yeah, so under human development and relationships, there's also a whole extension provides a wealth of financial education. I don't dive as much into financial education just because I'm half-time and I have to, most of my programming is more with families and relationships, but I do have access to a lot of great financial education resources. And there's now somebody who's half-time just focusing on financial stuff in Bayfield County. And so when she offers programming, it extends to Ashland County as well, which is wonderful. One thing I do maintain as far as financial education is a relationship with Bayfield Electric. They require all of their clients to go through a financial education component before they receive electric assistance. So they get a $300 credit, but they have to complete an educational piece. We used to have people come to a face-to-face class, and we would offer that monthly. For a lot of reasons, that was, posed a lot of barriers for people. They had to get off of work, they had to drive, you know, all sorts of childcare, all sorts of things. So even before COVID, we were moving to Money Matters, which was created here in Ashland and Bayfield counties. It's an online learning module where you can pick a topic and kind of dive into it more deeply. You take a quiz associated with that topic, and it's actually, the quiz is a learning tool. So you're learning as you're taking the quiz. And then once folks complete the quiz, they can submit their name, and I get a notification that they've done that. And then we talk over the phone and talk about financial goals and just, you know, see if there's any follow-up resources that they could use from Extension. You know, usually it's about a 15-20 minute conversation. And then I let Bayfield Electric know that they have completed their financial education requirement. So it's working really well. It connects them to this website that has all these different topics that they can actually access at any time. It's all run through the university, so it's updated. There's COVID information. There's you know, information about how to access different programs, even local programs on there, and it's not biased, which is nice. So it's not, you know, you look up spending plans or something online, and everybody's trying to sell you some version of what they have to offer. But this site is nice because it nobody's selling you anything along the way. It's just research based on bias information. So that's been going well. I think I have on here, I did 18 folks completed that in 2020. And I think I already have 12 people that have done it so far in 2021. So it kind of comes in surges because they get their notices that their electricity is going to be shut off at certain times of year. So I'll get a bunch of phone calls at once, and then it'll simmer down for a while.
And Heidi, thank you for that report that you're giving, but I think all of us sitting here cannot imagine what it's like for a child to go to school and say, my dad's in jail or my mother's in jail.
Yeah.
I don't think none of us can imagine what that's like for a kid.
Yeah.
And they're not getting it at home.
Right.
So for us to try to help this next generation,
Yeah.
give a little piece of what it's like to live in a quote normal home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is where we should be spending our money.
And yeah, in our program that we do work to reduce some of that stigma associated with
I can't
incarceration through,
imagine.
you know, carefully selecting the books that we offer. And you know, even something like Tell a Story, it kind of helps kids realize, oh, there's other kids that use this space that have a parent in jail, you know, it's, you can see them. You know, coming into a space that's devoted for that makes them feel less alone, I think. So that stigma is a big part of it. And it's so important to tell kids the truth too, because caregivers try to hide that because they don't want their kids to have to go through that at school. But we know that telling the truth is best for long-term relationships and child outcomes. So yeah,
Good
that's
discussion.
a big one. Any questions on anything else? Sorry, I've been in the report.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Stephanie Baker with the Ashland Bayfield Iron County Foodwise program. So since we last met, I did speak about Strong Bodies, which is a strength training program. And so we are starting a 12-week series when we last met. So we actually wrapped that up. It was a virtual program in partnership with Douglas County. And it was successful, and so successful they wanted another series, so we started another series. It was 8 weeks, and we're wrapping it up this week. It's really filled a void up here. There's not a lot of places to be, you know, active with strength training. When you look at the Strong Bodies map in Wisconsin, there is a big gap up in these rural northern areas. And it was the first time our program's offered it. We've been working towards getting there. So the partnership with Douglas County has been really extremely beneficial because they've done it, they do it continuously year round, and they've done it for quite a few years now. I would say, Heidi was talking about, there's sometimes some things that are better in person and stuff like that. And we definitely seen that with some of our education. I would say the Strong Bodies program though, it is really good to do virtually though, because we had that benefit of having people across 4 counties be able to attend this event. And also being able to partner with Douglas County. You know, I don't know if people, travel from Hurley to Superior, to do a twice a week strength training class. But it was also nice in the winter for, typically with older adults do this class, to not have to travel, in the winter time and stuff like that. Funny story, actually, this weekend I ran into one of our participants, but I didn't know what she looked like because a lot of people block out their, they don't have the video, and she said, Stephanie, and I was like, oh, and then she told me her name. I was like, yes, of course. And I was like, oh, we could see each other in person. So, and she talked about how gardening's easier, stuff like that for her. So, it was just, that's why we do it. So that was something more recent that kind of happened. And there's also a nutrition portion that we do after these as well. And that's been going really well. People have been asking for the next series. So I'm excited to continue to do that with Douglas County. With our grant this last year, we could put in to keep doing some stuff virtually. And that was one thing we decided to continue doing that way. And then also recently the Ashout County Aging Unit wanted to dive in deeper with us on this. So we're going to be touching base with them a little bit more for our next series and reaching out to the senior sites to do this.
Excellent.
We're also in the process of the final stages of hiring a nutrition educator. So I'm hoping the next time we meet that I'll have someone to introduce you guys to with that. So that position would be mostly serving Ashland and Bayfield counties and doing nutrition education in the schools, with parents of young children, food pantries, things like that.
And that's housed here in our
Yes.
office.
Yeah, so in the room being Heidi. All right. Other thing I wanted to highlight, I'm not going to cover all this, but is I started and completed the fiscal year 22 grant. Our fiscal year starts October 1. And because we're federally funded, we complete this grant. It does everything from mileage and food sample supplies all the way down to each sticker each kid is going to get. So it's a pretty intensive process. It lays out our plan for the next fiscal year. It can always be subject to change, but that also this year also included, we have a multi-year action plan that happens every 3 years. And so we did a community needs assessment. I did one for Ashland, Bayfield, and Iron County, as well as an action plan going forward for the next 3 years. So we took a look at demographics and statistics, and we're currently taking a mapping workshop, and that really looks at those pieces for each county, like, where can we be serving, this audience more, and, is there a gap here and stuff, and just really understanding what our counties look like. So we're going to continue that for about another month or so. So that'll kind of wrap up that piece.
Just a question.
Yes.
Are you using any data that came from the census?
Yes, it is based on the census data.
Excellent.
Yep. So we have a state specialist that actually does this. And she was formerly a food-wise state specialist, but now she's more with an extension. And so she's leading this workshop. And she kind of showed us there's like a map that you can look at these different points. You can look at different, different demographic groups, income, poverty, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's nice because I have one of the biggest areas in the state, so it really puts it, you can see it side by side.
Excellent.
So it's been a really good resource. And so we've been having group meetings and stuff like that on that. And then just the last piece I wanted to highlight was, since I kind of started this coordinator position, we've been having these special events we've been kind of doing. So in support of local farms and farm to school. So there's the Great Lakes Great Apple Crunch I've mentioned in the past. So that takes place in October, and we do, we celebrate apples and do apples activities. We had the Wisconsin Chili Lunch this year that takes place in February. And our educator, Deb, it's highlighting local foods and supporting local farmers. And the most recent one is School Garden Day. And this celebrates farm to school efforts and people that support farms and gardens. And so this was new for us this year. And so we tried out a couple of teaching events. And so Deb, my educator up in Iron County, did an event with the Hurley Head Start students. She invited the Iron County egg agent to come there virtually through Zoom and showed us like baby goat and stuff. And so the kids had a lot of fun with that. She also did a fourth grade planting day at the Hurley School Garden, and it was actually featured on the Duluth News, like the highlights of your community section. So she got featured in that. And then I did an event, I'd done a virtual event with the Bayfield School 4K students, and it went really well in the fall, so I thought they'd be a good area to try this out with. So I partnered with the Bayfield Farm to School gal, and then a staff member that does the 4K, that oversees that. And what we did was we did a virtual event with the 4K students from the ECC in Red Cliff, and then the Bayfield Head Start, and we did a virtual sunflower planting event, and then just talked about, like, you know, next year you guys are going to the big school and you're gonna have these gardens and you're gonna do all this fun stuff, and just like kind of introduce that to them, you know, wherever they go to school, because Washburn has a great school garden as well. Ashland, you know, does a lot with the gardens, and, you know, Oliver. So regardless of where they go, they'll have that exposure, kind of know what to expect going forward. So I think we're gonna do that next year. We'll keep that up, and we also were able to. Part of a grant is we can provide supplies for policy systems and environment changes. And so I was able to purchase some gardening supplies for both the Hurley School Garden and the Bayfield School Garden, things like small gardening tools, harvest bins, watering cans, promotional materials for farm to school. And so I was able to get that to them, and garden stuff is really taking off at the schools because it's an opportunity to be outside, not so much in the classroom with COVID. Yeah, and then we're just doing some summer youth programming coming up. Hopefully I'm training in a new educator, and just have some trainings and professional development coming up. That's all I got for you guys. Any questions?
Strong bodies. We put it on my Facebook page that you were doing the class.
Yep.
And 2 people hooked on. What they really liked about that group was that they were allowed to do these stronger body things in their home.
Yes.
Where they know the routine and they know where they can go safely, and that's what they really like. They
Yep.
can do it from their home, and
It's really nice. It saves on commuting. You have all your stuff right there. It's, you know, it was a chance for people to connect socially too. It was just, I think it was a really good check-in, as much as the benefits that people gain from the actual strength training. I mean, it's something like 5% of women's strength training, you know, or something like that. They should. It's a pretty low number and stuff. So this is trying to elevate that number and better quality of life.
another good program you do.
And thank you to Kathy for helping out with the interviews too, for the nutrition education time. So, appreciate the support.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
thank you so much. And then here's Lisa.
Melissa, are you on?
Yep. Still here.
Turn up the volume. Hold on a second, Melissa.
Okay.
Mike's gonna turn you up.
And I just want to preface my
And they can
comment.
hear it's loud enough.
Oh,
I said, when you volume turned up loud enough.
You can knock it off at about 8 times.
Say something, Alyssa.
I'm just
Well,
trying to be-
can you hear me?
Yeah.
My laptop is very funky the last couple weeks. I can only see about half of my screen. So I'm going to be looking at my notes here. And I do want to preface, I just found out this morning that I do have Lyme disease. I'm feeling really poorly right now, and it's affecting my my brain and language. So I'm going to keep this short and kind of just highlight some things from my notes. One thing I wanted to do in my notes is give you examples of questions that I get, either phone calls or emails, just to show you the wide breadth of what Community Develop gets asked to look into. And no surprise to me, in the last month or so, we've had many questions about clean sweeps. It's one of our most popular programs. We've analyzed our Google Analytics and find that lots of people land on that Clean Sweeps page on Ashland County's website. And I went through past records of materials collected at Clean Sweeps since the program was started by Northwest Regional Planning Commission in 1995. So the county's been paying for this annual collection for 26 years, and it's captured about 200,000 pounds of toxic material, which was safely disposed of, keeping it out of our land and water. Highly popular program, and I'm looking forward to another great year. I am training the Bayfield County Clean Sweeps coordinator, the community development educator Kelly in Bayfield County didn't feel this fit her program, so Bayfield County's emergency management department is running their Clean Sweep. So I spent time in the last month or two getting them up to speed and promoting the whole program. I'm starting a very small new program called Donuts for Drugs to emphasize the year-round collections for medications that are at all law enforcement offices in Ashland and Bayfield counties. So our medication collection table is staffed by a law enforcement officer and a pharmacist, which is required by law. And we're going to be giving out donuts to thank people who bring their meds, as well as a postcard that tells them where to take their meds during the year. That worked really successfully by law enforcement in Douglas County, so we're going to try it here. I've got 10 volunteers helping with the surveys that we give out to people and with traffic, and I want to thank Kathy Schutte for joining us this year as a greeter to experience the Clean Sweeps and to help manage some of the questions that people give us while they wait their turn to unload. And I am taking these questions I'm getting from the public about waste management. What do I do with tires? What do I do with batteries in my TV set? I'm taking those questions and designing a new survey that I can use in public places like Ashland County's fair, the home shows when they start up again next year, the libraries, all kinds of public places, to it be an interactive, almost game-like format to answer people's questions throughout the year. You're going to have tough budget decisions to make in the next coming months about Clean Sweeps. If you're keeping it or not, it costs about $9,500 a year. What I'm trying to do is just a broader, deeper education on where to take materials in case anything happens. Tomorrow I've been working, let me back up. I've been working for about 5 months with a statewide educator and the Douglas County ag educator and Sarah DeGraff, our Ashland County ag educator, to offer a pilot program that is happening tomorrow at Bayfield County's Clean Sweep. And this is where farms can bring in their used agriculture feed silage bags for recycling by a Wisconsin company called Trek. They take the bags and use 100% recycled plastics to make new bags and lumber. And we're also accepting marina boat wraps at this demo project tomorrow, which will be at the Bayfield County site because it's much bigger than the Ashland County site. And so far, 12 farms in a 3-county region have scheduled to bring in over 10,000 pounds of plastic. So we're testing this to see if it's something that can be added in the future to collect more of the farm and marina waste. I'm just going to highlight 2 other things I've been working on. I'm spending a good deal of time over the last 2.5 years with the City of Ashland's Stormwater Management Study Group. This was organized with an ad hoc group of county employees, our office, and city employees, as well as the League of Women Voters, to address the stormwater overflow by the city of Ashland. The last couple of years, millions of gallons of accidental materials, effluent from the wastewater treatment plant has been released into the Lake Superior Bay. And we're working with the city to find ways to minimize those releases and educate the community about what they can do to help reduce those overflows. Part of that work also involved me being on the Source Water Protection Plan Committee. That started in 2015, and then that program sort of fell by the wayside when the city of Ashland lost some staff. But another group has met for just about a year to literally rewrite the plan line by line, edit it, and it's going in front of City Council next month to be approved. And this is a plan that protects the waters of the Lake Chequamegon Bay from pollutants such as was threatened by the CAFO a few years ago. So it's a very, very important plan for not just the city of Ashland, but Chequamegon Bay as a way to minimize any contaminants that could threaten the city's water supply. One more, I'll give you an overview and then just one highlight of what I'm working on in the next 6 months. I spent a good deal of time getting trained under the university's extension disaster education network called EDEN. It's actually a national network of extension educators from family living to youth education to community development to find ways to help communities be better prepared for natural disasters, such as extreme weather. So it's important in this region that's already experiencing extreme weather events caused by climate change and other changing weather patterns that we educate the community about how to offset some of the huge impacts, such as flooding in the recent heat event, helping communities and individuals be better prepared. So I'm going to be doing that month of education that I did in 2019, which is sponsored by FEMA, called the National Preparedness Month. In the packet, there's a reference to a resolution I'm hoping this committee can bring to the full county board to support in September to acknowledge that. But the Bayfield and Ashland County Emergency Management committees, or I'm sorry, departments want to do outreach on how are we going to be ready for the next big natural disaster. So that'll be a big part of my future project. We're hoping to put on 4 programs in the month of September. I've got lots of materials from the Red Cross and FEMA to distribute. I've got a distribution plan for how to distribute those and do more education. I'll be bringing that display on hazardous materials for the first time to the Ashland County Fair to test it out, as well as a whole display on the benefits and beauty of solar energy. And then the last thing is, you talked earlier about using the agricultural food economy as an economic driver for the county. And I have put myself on a statewide planning committee to bring the second Edible Foods Startup Summit to the region and the state in another virtual format in October. So we'll be bringing regional and local speakers to this statewide regional food economy development summit to highlight the successful food entrepreneurs in Chequamegon Bay, and also bring in speakers to educate others on how to get engaged in a food economy. So I'll just leave it right there. And if you have questions, I will have time to answer them after I get my, my antibiotics.
Lisa, I have a question, easy. What's the date and time for the clean sweep and where is it going to be held at?
2 to 6 Wednesday, WITC.
Yeah, Wednesday, February, or June 23rd, 2 to 6. Yep.
6. Every other week, we host a guys thing at our house where the guys all get together and they chat about stuff that's interesting. I mentioned the clean sweep to them. They loved it. They want to know about motor oil.
Yeah,
they-
so motor oil is no longer accepted at the clean sweeps because multiple local places around the state take those for different purposes. So one of the products that the office, Ashland County's office, has put together is an annual update of a hazardous waste disposal guide, which I can maybe look up after I'm done talking here and put it in the chat for a link. Brenda just updated that in I think April, and that lists local places in Ashland County where you can bring things like motor oil. So usually there's not a charge. It can't be mixed with other materials, but in that guide, it'll list the local businesses that take it throughout the whole year.
I printed out the guide and I showed it to him. I didn't want to give him my copy because I printed it out on my own paper and ink, and it was about 13 pages long. So
Yeah, it covers everything from appliances to television sets. So it's pretty comprehensive, and we use those categories in there. We develop those categories partly by what are people asking us. So I get lots of questions about motor oil, tires, electronics, and batteries. And so from the public's comments, I'm using those questions and comments to help drive some of the education products.
And my last question, number 4 on your list that you gave for what you're working on, it said you can get soil test kits for farmers. Who has those and where do you get them from?
I don't have the name off the top of my head right now, but we have throughout the whole year, we have test kits at our office that people can get. Usually we get requests for a few at a time. This question I got was from our Land and Water Conservation, from several farmers who are requesting from 50 to 200 kits for their whole fields. So then I had to go to a source that could ship out that many. But if you wanted to do just, one part of your garden or a smaller area, we've got those soil testing kits at the office in the courthouse.
Okay, thanks.
Does Ashland Ag have the kits too?
When you say Ashland Ag, you mean our educator?
Oh, the Ashland Ag Center on Sanford Avenue.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
The feed mill there, I think they have them if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you pay for them. But, yeah. So Liz, I was wondering what the clean sweep, which I think is one of the absolute best things local government does, because, putting the stuff where it belongs is much better than the consequences of not doing that. Ashland and Bayfield counties are similar in that we have a lot of population up north, and Ashland County is no longer doing a clean sweep in the southern part of the county. So something I think about is, what if the two counties went together, did a clean sweep at the visitor center? There's lots of access there. Washburn gets kind of crowded at times. What if we did one jointly at the visitor center, and then because of budget concerns, maybe alternate somewhere down county in the counties, with a clean sweep, maybe one time down in, down county Ashland, one time down county Bayfield. Because, if you got to drive an hour to drop stuff off, that's kind of a big ask sometimes for people to dispose of it. And I'm wondering if Ashland County doesn't have some data on where this is coming from now, since you haven't done Down County, I think for a couple of years now, is, if you're not getting it from Down County anymore, then that begs the question, what's happening to it?
Yeah, we are getting it from southern part of the county. The last clean sweeps, it was one of our record attendance. There were 204 people from 5 counties. And one of the questions on the survey is, where are you bringing materials from? And we do get people from Glidden, Marengo, Mellon, and Butternut. Some of the real southern communities like Butternut go to Park Falls, Price County's collection. And some of the Bayfield County people come to Ashe County and vice versa. So sometimes it depends on the date of when people can go to an event. I'm not sure that it's as easy as just saying, let's have the two counties combine their events. Right now, we had 204 people last year in 4 hours. It was constant traffic. I'm not sure how many more people could be handled in that amount of time. So trying to share 2 counties worth, I think could be a real struggle to service that many people. And the contractor in Northwest Regional Planning, which is the agency that has written the grant that pays for this from USDA, they have to send a certain amount of staff and trucks and collection containers, and they have a rate per county event. So I'm not sure we could just say we'll have one event for 2 counties.
I went to the one in Ashland and, you know, I had to wait a while. In fact, a fair bit. But, you know, again, it's limited to 4 hours this year. And I'm thinking at the visitor center, you know, it's kind of the county line close to it, but there's got to be a fixed cost for setting it up. So what if they set it up for, you know, 8 or 10 hours? Would there be some budget savings because they're setting up once as opposed to going to multiple locations and setting up and moving? And then, you know, staff are there on 2 different days if they could combine it on one. So
that would be a question that I would want you all to talk to Sheldon Johnson, who is the head of Northwest Regional Planning Commission. He runs the grant. He understands what each county pays and what the contractor's requirements are. The new contractor that we got last year did require that neighboring counties put their events on successive dates. So Bayfield was one day, Ashe County another, same thing this year, the next day, so that they could stay up in this area a little better, you know, geographically. But the question of how to combine it and what cost savings, that is above my expertise. I would want the county board to talk to Northwest Regional Planning about that.
So you mentioned some go to Park Falls. I did not realize when you said that apparently people could go to any of these in the region and not limited to your county. I live in Ashland County, but I own land in Bayfield County, so I've always felt free to go to either. But in your ads on this, offhand, I don't recall something saying, regardless of where you live, anyone is welcome to go to any of the clean sweeps. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's accurate. And I have put that in my ads in my outreach that there are 9 counties in the town of Madeline Island that pay for the clean sweeps. And regional planning has told us if you live in one of those counties, you can attend another county event. So they've made that really clear to me. So I do put that in our outreach materials.
Okay.
In fact, I had someone call me who she lives in Bessemer, Michigan, but she's cleaning out her family's house in her parents' house in Ashland County. And she said, I'm going to be coming in with Michigan plates on my car, but my parents live in Ashe County and I cleaned their house. Can I come? So I said, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good to know.
Hi, Lisa, this is Philomena. I'll keep it really quick. I'm really sorry to hear about this Lyme's disease issue, and I hope you're able to resolve that quickly. Just a question about the Edible Startup Food Summit. I think that's great. One thing that I'm really excited about is the investments that the tribes are putting into their commercial fish operations. You know, the Red Cliff Fish Plant that recently opened this year. And my understanding is that Bad River is also going to be developing a food processing center, a commercial food processing center, focusing on commercial fish production, which is a local food that I feel like should be highlighted in an event like this. So just wanted to put some input in there for that.
That's fantastic. And if you have any contact people for me, feel free to email them to me. We would love speakers on that. Traditionally, this food summit has seemed to focus more on restaurant startups, but there are kind of new food entrepreneurs in the state that are getting involved. There's a woman in Milwaukee who is called the Crispy Candy Queen or something like that. She started a Rice Krispie company, and she'll be a speaker. There's some canneries that are involved in this year. So it's a whole variety of any kind of food production. So feel free to let me know who those folks are, and I'll make sure they get invited.
Thank you so much. Any further discussion? Any other questions for Lissa? Thank you so much for your report. Alrighty, do we have any other educator reports, or are we done with that? Is Doug on somewhere?
No, he's not. He's actually on vacation.
Oh, good for him.
He's out in the wilderness somewhere.
Excellent. That sounds appropriate for Doug.
Yes.
All right, and Joy?
Joy is, she has she's teaching right now, so.
Okay,
So she's not on today. There's anything, I know she's excited too about being able to open up, things more in the summer now and do more face-to-face types of programs. She's done a lot of virtual programming. You will not be able to start coming face-to-face again, so.
yeah, that's wonderful. I heard that she has an assistant that's gonna be working with her at Summer Youth, Maddie Wiggins. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, there's through LCO, there's several interns. It's an intern program through LCO, and they're working on food sov. There's somebody one up in Red Cliff also, and Joy is mentoring that whole group.
Excellent.
So that person will be
Excellent.
one of those.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear. All right, then, can we move on to item number 8? This is discussion and potential action on support of an Ashland County resolution to highlight National Preparedness Month in September 2021. There is a resolution that is in the materials. And I don't know if anyone wants to speak to this. Lissa, you talked about this a little bit in your report.
Yeah, thanks. This committee brought that to the full county board, which passed it in September of 2019 as a way to highlight the need to be ready for all kinds of disasters, human disasters, as well as natural disasters, as part of a national outreach program sponsored by FEMA. So I put together this resolution based on a template that FEMA offered. And it's basically, a way to say we support the outreach that's going on from our communities and tribes and businesses. And we would like to make sure that residents of our county are more informed about what steps they can do to protect themselves, as well as what businesses and local governments can do to mitigate future impacts. So it's very, very similar to the resolution that was passed by the board in 2019.
So this is Pat. I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Alrighty, motion passes in support of the Ashland County resolution to highlight National Preparedness Month for the September 2021. So that'll go on to the board agenda at some point.
July 20th.
Okay. Great.
Mary, you'll have to send that.
Yep, I'm making myself a note.
Okay, so the next item is the 2020 annual report. We've all received a copy of this. Do you want to talk about this?
I'll talk about it just for a second. So this is a bit of a draft in that I just finished it yesterday. So everybody sent their stuff to me and, you know, we don't have a support staff right now. So this is, that's why it hasn't been put together yet. So anyway, I just finished putting it together. So they haven't seen it yet, the final thing, although I think it's darn near perfect. So I don't think there'll be a lot of changes to it. But what we will do with this is bind it up nicer. I mean, this is just stapled together, but we'll bind it up nicer and then get copies out for the entire county board. And then if I can get on a county board agenda at some point to talk about it a little bit, that would be fabulous. So anyway, this is just, it runs through all of the highlights of 2020 programming, which, you know, it was an off year because of COVID and we couldn't do a lot of the face-to-face stuff, but a lot of stuff was moved to virtual programming and we still did a lot of the same things, just in different format. And then I also put on here, the very back of it is the budget stuff that I had presented to all of you back in February in a PowerPoint presentation. We had talked about this. So this is the exact same charts that I used in there. And Pat loved this quote, so I put that right up on top. I wrote that down.
Okay.
Pat liked that one. So anyway, if you have any questions about it, let me know. Obviously, we do this every year, do an annual report to the board. And then I know that in the budget discussions last fall, when you were looking at the different organizations and non-mandated services there, that, you know, people were saying that these organizations need to provide an annual report and a budget and all that kind of stuff to the county board. Well, we do that all the time. So it looks like this.
So with COVID, you know, everyone or a lot of people went through some growing pains on learning to use technology. And so in many ways, last year was hard, but you know, society as a whole is much better with technology
I
now.
agree.
And I'm pretty sure that, you know, you can build on what not just staff has learned, but the public has learned on using that technology. And you'll be able to provide, you know, better services, more services, connect with more people. So I assume that you're going to try to build on that and not go back to where we were a year ago.
Correct. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things like Kathy and when Stephanie were talking about before
Yeah.
with the strong bodies.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for people to be able to participate in that from home. So kind of the ideal then is to have programs face-to-face live that people who want that way can come to, but that people at home who don't want to do it that way, that it's more convenient because they don't have to find childcare and all those types of things, that they also have the same opportunities. And those are the types of things that we didn't necessarily have before that we do now.
And you're going to blend those two things too. So
Definitely.
blended classes are harder than just one or the other because now you get two audiences, but you'll learn to blend those. And a big part of all of that is helping people understand the format and training them. So like the speakers in here, you have to train everybody. How does the system work? And we all talk at the same time. The answer is no, and you know, and the people in the background. So once you know, go through those processes, and you know, having used that stuff for so long, it's really nice. You serve more people and
Yeah, and one thing that Extension is always trying to do is increase our access to people and increase our audience and people that can, you know, interact. So this has definitely been one of the good things about COVID.
I agree.
There's not many, but that's one of them. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions, comments, feedback? I think it looks beautiful.
Thank you.
You did a really nice job.
Yeah, Mary, thanks for doing all that.
Yeah, yeah.
The office manager's job to put this together.
there we go.
Yeah.
This is fun though. I love doing stuff like this.
Alrighty, and then the next agenda item is, I know this is an update that Charlie had. We were texting before the meeting. This is the WEXA, Wisconsin Extension Association update. This is and another countywide or another statewide organization. They had their initial meeting just recently, and Charlie was elected as the secretary of that organization. So I know he'll have more updates as things move forward. But anything else, any other discussion on that item?
Other than the state, Counties Association took that program over. We belong to that program now. The county has been forever on our own. It was called WASEC. And the counties that took this program over, which is pretty unique. And so I don't know, maybe you'd like to go to the annual meeting this year, because when they have the Counties Association, they will be having it again in September. And they do have a breakout on this extension, so.
Absolutely.
I was gonna go last year, but I'd rather have you go. You're gonna be here longer than me.
It's really a good program too. It's really. good.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Well, let's just keep our eyes open about the, the upcoming meeting. Any further discussion? Alrighty, 11, this is other business, future agenda items, but we also, let's talk about the county fair first, because you have an update on that.
I have an update for the county fair. It will be a 4-day fair. It will be August 19th through the 22nd. If you can jot that down. We are having a county board supervisors horseshoe tournament. We have it every year. It's really just for the fun of it. It is, you don't have to play horseshoes very well to play. It's a chance for us to get together.
Yeah, you do. She takes it personal. She brings in ringers to help her out.
You just have to have fun when you're at the event, and we'd like to encourage people to come and play. We are going to have money prizes plus trophies this year. $20 goes to the first place team, 10 for the second place, and $5 plus the trophy for the third place team. I gotta write that down so I remember it. It's an Ashland County Fair Supervisors Horseshoe Tournament. And when Clark came on the first 2 years, he handed out the trophies here at the county board meeting. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. Remember that?
I remember that.
It is just a fun day at the county fair. You get to go see all the exhibits and the animals, and the county fairs are one of the old items that go with county fairs, and people really look forward to doing it. It's a chance to go back and look again, because you see all the beautiful things that happen in our county that are made by people in the county. People in Bayfield County can enter National County, so can Iron and Price County. And it's really a nice, I like the turkey legs, I like corn on the cob and some cotton candy and some Indian tacos, and
You can have a carnival.
the carnival cost us $30,000.
So they're gonna have one this year then?
Yes.
They're gonna,
Right now, we have $27,000 in our budget for the fair, and the carnival costs us $30,000.
Wow.
And you can hardly have a county fair without a carnival.
Yeah, you can.
So, we need bodies at the county fair. Fun thing, it's been for many years. If we don't fund our county fair, we'll be one of the only counties in the state that don't fund the county fair. And that's a shame.
You need bodies at the county fair. I have a friend that's an undertaker.
Oh, Dick.
one of the things you gotta remember is that Ashland County Fair is still all volunteers. Bayfield County puts on their fair, and from June 1st till after the fair in Bayfield County, they put a highway person on that, and that's all they do is work at the fair. We don't have none of that. We brought boys from the group home over there almost all the time to help them put up fencing, and then about 15 years ago, they spent about the county spent $250,000 on the fair. They put in all new grandstands, they put in all new watering, new cattle facilities, and then they ran it, and they actually spent $100,000 a year, the county did, and then all of a sudden she started kicking over, now it's starting to take care of its own. So our county is very fortunate to have all volunteers, because if the county took it over, the city does their kind of thing, they got their Bay Days, but Glidden and Butternut put on their own fairs. And we see very little participation from them too. And it became a central part of the county fair, and that's not what it was ever expected to be. So we do need a lot of publicity, we do need volunteers, we need people to get out there and spend time there.
I was gonna remember one more thing, and now it's slipped my mind while you were talking, so wait till you get my age. So we would like people to sign up ahead of time, so it's teams, so you can pick somebody else to play with. So the first place team, the second place team, Laura Negro is the championship person right now, so she needs to come in.
We gotta unseat her.
I didn't say that. But she is the current champion right now, and so she will defend her title at the county fair. It's all in fun. The most important thing is you have to have the least experience sewing shoes. For some reason, first place event people win. I don't know what it is.
That would be me. So
That would be, I won one time. I've never thrown horseshoes, but it's kind of funny.
yeah.
There's a word for that, there's an old saying, it calls beginner's luck,
I agree,
Yeah,
George,
yeah,
you're
okay.
100% right.
but geez, it shouldn't be every year.
Well, it is.
That's great.
Any
Right.
questions? Oh, now I know what it was. We're going, the fair board, Brett Martinson, myself, and Doreen Hennanen are gonna come and give you the full county board a report after all the bills are paid, and just like we did last year, we're gonna start doing that every year, so the
Great.
whole county board knows what we're doing, how much money we took in and all this stuff. Any questions?
Congratulations on all your work that you.
As long as it don't take over a minute.
Dick, you know what? There are many, many volunteers out there who have done this for years, 50, 60 years, and they never get a dime for it, so
Something to be proud of.
something to be very proud of.
Absolutely.
Thank you, I'll be quiet.
I think it's essential. Really
Me
is.
too.
So people in the outlying area are finally being recognized a little bit, and given something to chew on. The county fair is something we absolutely have to support.
Oh, I apologize, I lied to you. Each county, each 4-H group in Ashland County, they have to enter in the county fair in order to go on with their 4-H projects to the next level. If you have no county fair, where are your 4-H groups gonna go to get their projects done? Scored ribbons, blue ribbons in the county fair. If we don't have one, where are they gonna go?
But one of the things you still remember is that the state still pays the per diems.
Right.
They still, when I showed cattle back in the 60s, I got $5 for, I usually got a third or a fourth place because all the good farmers usually got the first, It's still $5
Mhm.
because the counties don't, there's some counties that do bring in. And being that we do have enough farmers up here yet that do show some cattle, we have a lot of counties, the Brown counties, the Milwaukee counties, hire people to bring cattle in because there's counties that have no more farm animals, no more anything, and they spend some big bucks to bring animals in to show the people that food still comes from a milk cow, food still comes, it's just a lot of that stuff, and we're missing that. We gotta be careful we don't lose that.
I would like to challenge all of the people in this room that live in Ashland County. The volunteers out in Marengo and the surrounding businesses have a 4-H pie auction. And all the money goes toward 4-H.
Have a what?
You gotta go and
Pie
see that.
auction.
Oh,
A pie goes for $500, Mr. Chairman of the board. $500.
I don't make that kind of money.
And it's a real auctioneer.
It's a real auctioneer.
Well, they sell cattle first.
Yeah,
And over the last 20 years, they were, people, kids in the beef breeds, basically, they sold their animals, you know, and they bring anywhere from $1.50 to $4 a pound. And they get the sponsors like Synergy or Lulich as they bid on these. Well, what got to be more fun was in the past 10 years, they could sell a turkey. They could sell a chicken.
a pig.
They do the pigs they sell goats or sheep, you know, so it's gotten to be fun. And then about 10, 15 years ago, they started selling grandma's favorite pie,
Oh.
the blue ribbon pies, you know. And so the grandma started baking pies for this auction, and there's usually 30 pies. I think last year or 2 years ago, they pulled in $38,000 selling these pies. The cheapest ones go for $100, but it's all for, well, well, it's all publicity. There's a lot of people that don't end up buying an animal or something. They wanna have their name on the, you know, associations. They'll spend $150, $200 for a pie. And then you get that fun part where the two neighbors will start bidding against each other, and that really gets to be fun.
You'd have to see this to believe it.
It is, it's a great thing.
Clark, can you find us $100 to bid on a pie?
Yeah, we'll split it amongst all 21 at the next meeting.
So they sell cow pies too?
I should. bring that up.
No, the ice cream shop sells cow pies. Yeah, you could get a cow pie, it's got ice cream in it, I think. I don't know, I've never bought one. I had enough cow pies.
The pie auction is on Saturday night with the animal.
6 o'clock, yeah. It goes for 3 hours.
Yes.
Oh, go
And
ahead.
move on to the fair. And we'll go away from the fair.
That's right, you know.
So just one last thing I forgot to mention earlier, the county board, I think the finance committee and Clark were working on the resident priority survey. So extension, Lissa and I are helping with, we're actually using the university's Qualtrics system to do that. So we put the survey questions together with Clark, and it's online, and there's, as of this morning, there's 197 respondents, which is just kind of blowing my mind, because I didn't think you'd have that many so soon. So if you haven't taken it yet, or please do. If you're somebody like George who's not online, there's a paper version of it that Clark has access to that we give to you. So just wanted to let you know that's another service that we're helping the county with.
Did you send it to Ashland Area Development Corporation?
Probably, I think you're probably on Lissa's list. Lissa has a
Okay.
huge list that she sent it out to.
Yeah, I sent it to a bunch of my contacts and asked that it be disseminated. And also I got a request, which I am forwarding to Clark from the Daily Press, was really interested in this.
Yeah.
So,
And it's on the Ashland County website on the homepage there. Sorry, Lissa.
no, that's okay. I was just gonna say Rick Olivo wanted information, so I sent him over to Clark, and then you can talk to whoever you want, but we were just happy to get the information disseminated. I put it all over Facebook and to some of my key contacts, so I'm glad to hear that people are filling it out.
I did it. I thought it was really nicely done, comprehensive, easy to do, and yet not so long that it was something people, don't want to finish. So I thought it was really nice. I'm on the finance committee, and this is going to be really helpful to me as far as looking at priorities, because we have some input. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, any other business? No. announcements? Okay, so I think the next thing on the agenda is a meeting date for the next meeting. Charlie isn't here, so I don't know if we want to do that today or if we want to,
I can send out a doodle again, but can you tell me, do you want to do one in August? Do you want to make it a 2 months?
Let's see, what is the,
And that's what we were at before COVID, we were going every other month.
So with everything going on with the staffing, when are you gonna know more as far as giving us an update on what things might look like going forward?
Well, at this point, what I know is what we kind of talked about, is that co-funding pieces are actually going away. So so it's kind of up to you at this point on what you want to do. So we can talk about it more if you want to have a meeting next month to discuss that.
So in terms of a budget process, if we get too late in the year, that's problematic from a budget process. So as far as getting a decision made and having enough time to make it, and you know what the budget timeline is, what would you suggest for a meeting date roughly?
I think August is still fine for that.
Okay.
Because I can work up the budget in a couple different ways, and so that it's, because we don't need to turn it in to you until,
Usually it's a third week in August.
yeah.
Yeah, so we should go with August then?
August 16th would be the third Thursday, or third Tuesday.
That'd be just before the fair
It
though.
would be just before the fair.
Yeah,
Plus, we're meeting in July too, right?
For what?
the
Concord.
county
Yeah.
board.
Concord's meeting on July 20th.
Right, I got that in there.
I don't have the August county board meeting yet.
I will send out another doodle poll for you to, and put some various dates in August.
Okay.
We can get everybody together.
What day is the, horseshoe?
That is at Sunday at noon.
Okay.
Sunday at noon. And this year we have money for first place.
Awesome.
Money, big money.
Okay, anything else?
No,
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
so move.
You guys don't want to leave?
huh? No, I don't care. You don't have to have a motion.
I'll
At the end of the